So I have a question as we start this week's episode of TCP. What do you think Mutt is going to do with his first Mohegan Sun paycheck? Is he going to pay a bill, buy groceries? Will he save it? What Mutt should do with that money is buy a white flag and admit that his new show is dead. What a complete disaster Sportsbook Live was last Thursday night. Mutt will do the coach speak on Monday and say that things will get better, but this show isn't going to get any better. It's dreadful. And this is not on Mutt, who was good in the host role. He just has two morons in Etan Shander and Brad Bryant, who they call the Bomber, who believe they are way better than they are. I mean, these two frauds couldn't handicap a checker game, let alone sports. And Etan not showing up for the premiere show is a disgrace and an insult to Mutt and those who showed up. I mean, I just can't believe that people spent their time and money traveling to Mohegan Sun. They had to fill up their gas tanks. They spent money on food and drinking and probably gambling, while this arrogant loser half-assed the show from his house. I mean, he basically gave everyone there the middle finger, and it seems like people were okay with it. I just don't get it. If Mutt has any backbone, he would quit. He would simply walk away from that show and from the Mohegan Sun and walk into the Kirk Minahan Show studio, hat in hand, and admit he was wrong. Maybe this will persuade Dave Portnoy to hire him after Mutt foolishly said no to Dave's initial offer. Honestly, this is the only thing Mutt can do to save face at this point. I mean, really, he has no other options. What's crazy is that Mutt believes this show will actually bear fruit. And there are idiots on Twitter that are supporting him, be it with the show that he has going on at Mohegan or his ice machine idea, which is a gimmick that does not make money despite what you hear. There's so many additional costs that Mutt isn't considering. What Mutt needs is an intervention more than compliments, as his career on Thursday night sank to a new low. This was worse than being let go from WEEI, and Mutt has to see that. But keep on telling him what he's doing is great. This is like telling a drug addict that he does not have a problem as the addict is wiping the white powder off his nose. Everyone should be as pissed off with Mutt as Kirk and Dave Cullinane are. They understand that Mutt is blowing a dream job with Barstool, and hopefully Kirk and Dave have that same emotion of being mad when Mutt is in the studio. Again, there are people who would walk to New York or Chicago for a job at Barstool, and for Mutt to pass up this chance because of loyalty to Mohegan Sun is criminal. Yes, I get it. Loyalty is an important quality to have, so Mutt definitely is doing the right thing somewhat with Mohegan Sun. But loyalty to an employer should not be in a person's top 5. Think about that. You should be loyal to your health, your religion, your country, and your friends. Most importantly, and number one, you should be loyal to your family. Kirk mentioned that Mutt was going to make at least $75,000 with his first Barstool contract. And this number is definitely going to go up if Mutt lives up to his contract in year one. And with Mutt's talent, this was definitely going to happen. And of course, it would definitely happen if he gave Portnoy more winners when it came to horse racing. And I understand $75,000 isn't earth-shattering money, but this is a decent living and a way for Mutt to support his wife and children. These are the people Mutt should be thinking about. not the clowns at Mohegan Sun. Men do what is ever necessary to ensure their families are housed, clothed, and fed. And many of us work 50 plus hours and multiple jobs a week to make sure this happens. Unless we are missing something, Mutt isn't showing the same motivation. Yes, of course, working a couple of gigs a month helps, but Mutt should be hosting these gigs along with doing many other things to earn income. You can't rely on a possible ice machine venture and a once-a-week newsletter to support your family. It just doesn't add up. Mutt has been saying for months that he needs to get a job very soon. He was given that opportunity from Portnoy and turned it down? And how is this not contradictory to what Mutt has been saying? It's time for Mutt to do the right thing and ask Portnoy if the job's still open. And hopefully Dave will still give Mutt that chance, as it's the only thing he can do at this point to save his Titanic-like career from fully sinking. Wake up, Mutt. It's time to get a job at Barstool. Speaking of Cullinane, he and Justin were great behind the glass this week. Aside from some minor YouTube issues, the shows were really entertaining, and you could tell just how much Kirk is enjoying himself again. He really feels at ease. This is good Kirk right now. What I would suggest is that the producers consider not putting in the second guy in the studio at certain points of the week, as Cullinane and Justin are pretty much second chairs along with producers, and they pretty much carry a lot of the conversation during the show. I mean, Kirk really relies on them to talk a lot, and I think they're really good at talking and producing. For example, episodes with Blind Mike, Clemmer, Mutt, and Montante don't need that second person in because they are so good, they can carry the show alone with the help of the producers and, of course, Kirk. The second chair guy is essentially useless because you have those four guys doing a majority of the talking already. Of course, two guys are needed at other times if there's no way like a Robbie V or Danny Billerica could carry the show on their own. And if the two guys in studio are dreadful, then the producers still have the ability to help Kirk get through 2 hours. And I would also suggest that the producers not book the second tier guys back-to-back weeks like they did with Robbie V. Sure, he's a natural pairing with Danny, as they are longtime friends. But when Kirk asks, weren't you just here, Robbie? This is a sign that maybe better spacing on booking guests is needed. It happened here when I was booked back-to-back weeks prior to Portland. It seems strange to be in there so quickly again, but I understood that it was done as a one-off as I filmed something for Portland the same day that second week I was in. And Kirk was just as puzzled seeing me there. It just seems like Kirk wants the second tier guys in once every month or so, so to have Robbie in back-to-back weeks seemed way too soon. And there are some guests where it's hard to understand why they're in at all. Take Cliff, for example. He was completely lifeless last week. He brought nothing to the table. Sure, it was tough for him to get words in as he was paired with Blind Mike, but I just don't know if he was prepared for the show. It just seems like, he studied the last minute and, was trying to find things to talk about by just scrolling through Twitter. He just seemed so unprepared. And a guest is sinking when Kirk is saying the person's name multiple times in order to get them to chime in. When you hear, "What do you think, Cliff?" or "Right, Cliff?" that essentially means that Kirk is throwing the person a life preserver to save them from being the yellow shirt guy who would just sit there and say nothing. Again, maybe it was a matter of him being the clear fifth in that room, but my guess is that Cliff's 15 minutes of fame are up, and he needs to come up with new material the next time he's in, as Kirk seems rather bored with him, as I think many of us are. Speaking of not coming in, let's hope that Mick continues to stay away from the studio, and I really mean that genuinely. And it's not because of his talent. He's very good in the studio. He's a good guy. But Kirk and the guys mentioned last week how unhealthy Mick looked on the road trip, both from a physical and mental health perspective. You could tell that the stress of the KMS World and what was going on with potentially being named producer got the best of Mick. He just didn't look good at all the last time he was in studio. And at the time, Kirk said it was best that Mick take time off and perhaps not come in anymore to focus on getting healthy. And now, last week, Kirk is pushing for Mick to come in, saying that he misses him. Why is Kirk saying this? So that Mick can get upset and potentially never get his health back on track? I mean, if you care for this guy, why do you keep wanting him back in? We've all been there, be it a past job, a friendship, or a relationship that was hurting you more than helping you. And it wasn't until you broke away that you realized the damage that that situation caused. And I'm sure Mick misses the show. But if Kirk truly likes this guy, as he says he does, then he should just let Mick walk away and focus on getting himself right. Not just for a month or two, but for the remainder of his life. And I just don't think that being a part of KMS is going to help Mick get his health stable. It's a bad thing for him. Kirk has that ability to move past dozens of people over the years. So as hard as it is, he needs to do the same with Mick, as he will be doing this kid a favor more than he thinks otherwise. It's the right thing to do, especially if Kirk truly cares for this guy. Kirk, give it up with Mick. It's for his own good, not yours. And speaking of Kirk, his putting salt on pizza is a sin. Pizza should be taken seriously. To me, if you're not having a cheese or one topping thin crust pizza, then you're essentially eating garbage. You're Oscar the Grouch. You're eating filth. And if you're putting salt on your pizza or loading it up with a half dozen toppings, then it means that the overall quality of the pizza is junk. You're getting second-rate cheese, second-rate sauce, cheap dough. It just means that the pizza joint itself doesn't care about you. They don't care if you're eating anything good. They just want to take your money. That's it. And as someone who spends time in Sicily, and I grew up there as a kid, I go back there once every couple of years, putting salt on a pizza is the equivalent of placing peanut butter and grape jelly in lasagna or eating cereal with prune juice. You are simply insane if you do this. So when Kirk was mentioning this, I really thought that he was having a mental breakdown on the show because it just seemed completely nuts. And then he's trying to justify it by calling pizza places to see if people are doing this. Oh man, I just felt bad for him in that situation. But here's the thing. Instead of putting salt on your pizza, maybe it would be better for you to spend a couple extra bucks eating better pizza from an established pizza joint. One that actually cares about you, that uses good ingredients. You won't need salt, trust me. And, that's the proverbial food of thought to end this episode of the Consistency Podcast. Until next time, stay well, be good